Hi there, welcome to Rory Palmer's property. As you can see, plastering the ceiling. Had this property for about 3 years now, and which is the first chance we've had to get in here to do any work to it. Tenants have just left, and as you can see, ceilings weren't in the greatest of states. Lava and plaster ceilings. You can rip them down, but with this cornice that we got, it's very hard to sort of pull them down without damaging that, and that becomes very costly. So wanted to keep the cornice, just give it a little bit of character to the property. So what I did was I overboarded the ceilings because you can scrim tape the lava and plaster ceilings. That just basically means an old horsehair and cement sort of plaster, if you will. So you can tape over them with like a scrim tape, a mesh nylon tape, which strengthens up cracks. But to be honest, with the movement in the property, you're probably going to find that it's 80 to 100 years, if not older, and it's only going to crack somewhere else. So you overboard, make sure the screws are long enough to go through to your joists. As you'll see, you probably won't be able to see from where you're standing, but anyway, I've marked the ceiling where the joists were, so you just make a nice straight line. Screw the boards up, scrim tape the joins to strengthen them, and plaster away. So this is one of about 8 ceilings I've got to do in the property, and some of them are in better nick than the others. So some of them aren't so cracked, so I'm going to take a chance with them. And for the meantime, for the tenancy, the next tenancy will come in, they should be good, fingers crossed. But they're not going to fall down. I've checked them; they're not bouncing, they're not moving. So yeah, basically, I'm happy that they're going to be okay. Should they not get done with the boarding, that is. So yeah, that's the big plan of the day. To do this sort of job, I mean, depending on who you get, down in the south, your plasterer will probably put up in an ideal world, you probably tack the ceiling in one day and then you plaster it. It might be a bit of a too long a day depending on how well the plasterboarding goes. So you might find that you have to come back on a second day to then plaster it. But that will cost you roughly, for a plasterer, about 220, 250, possibly a little bit more. That's what I've found with the guys that I bring in to help me. If they've got a labourer, you're going to pay about roughly, about £100 a labourer, depending on how skilled they are. But yeah, for a guy to come and help you board, I mean, I do it all by myself. I use the smaller boards. There are sort of, for argument's sake, there are 8 foot by 4 foot sheets. They're a little bit tricky to work with you on your own. So I tend to go for the 6 by 3s. They're not exact, they're a little bit under, but that's the easy term to use in terms of which ones you use. And I use a couple of props that hold it in place whilst I then screw it. Other than that, there's no real, I mean, if this was in line, if these edges could be more in line with the lower part of this, I would literally put this mesh tape, doesn't have to be pink, it's white as well, but like a mesh tape that I would then put over the 2 areas. I would then PVA this because it needs to stick to this. You don't have to PVA a plasterboard, just any other surface that's not plasterboard, basically. So yeah, I would do that, bond these 2 areas out, and then come back, PVA it again, and plaster the whole thing. In regards to what's happening in this room, this will just get plastered, the walls will get tidied up with filler, and then they'll get completely painted top to bottom. With painting of a new plaster, you do need to do what's called a mist coat, which is a 50-50 matte emulsion and 50% matte emulsion, 50% water, and then that goes on and that soaks into the plaster and then gives you a key to then do 2 top coats of whatever you fancy. So, if you were wanting to though, there is things on the market such as new plaster paint. You can find it everywhere these days, and I find it to be good. Other people have said to me they don't, but I swear by it personally. And it's a less messier. With the watered down paint, basically what you find is it sprays everywhere. And obviously if you aren't literally doing what we're doing, which is, you know, ripping up all the carpets, doing all the walls, if you've got nice wallpaper and stuff, that water sort of, and it is going to be like a water, is going to literally mess you up, and you're going to have to cover everything. So, new plaster paint goes on like a normal paint, therefore less runs, which is also another thought, as with runs, what you find is, if you haven't seen that run and you come back to it later, you have to then rub that down and you have to start again. You have to miscoat that part before you can carry on. So then I would leave it, once it's all been miscoated, I would leave it about at least an hour before I came back and did a top coat. And you'll need 2, possibly 3, usually 2 top coats to make it real nice. And that pretty much sums up how this is working. Thank you very much for joining me.